Today, we are diving deep into the Pride Lands, straight into one of the most compelling and tragic figures in Disney history, Scar. We all know him as the sinister uncle, the usurper, the jealous brother who couldn't stand being second best. But what if I told you the name Scar is just a cruel nickname? What if the secret behind his true name completely reshapes how we view his tragedy and his relationship with Mufasa? Get ready, because we're unraveling the secret history of Taka. Before he was branded Scar, Mufasa's younger brother was known as Taka. While these books might not be considered absolute canon by everyone, think about that for a moment. This immediately gives us a window into Scar's earliest psychological wounds. Ahadi and Uru wanted him to achieve greatness. He felt like he was waste, yet he yearned for power. He was perpetually in Mufasa's shadow, constantly reminded that he was the spare, the runner-up, the second fiddle. In A Tale of Two Brothers, we get the backstory. Taka is constantly feeling inferior to Mufasa, who is already being groomed as the future king. Taka is resentful. He craves recognition. He tries everything to prove his worth, often resulting in mischief or disaster. There is a specific incident involving a buffalo attack orchestrated by Taka's manipulation and jealousy that leads to him receiving the iconic scar above his eye. When Taka is injured, he returns home, expecting sympathy, but instead, his father, King Ahadi, gives him a stern lecture. Ahadi sees the scar not as a mark of bravery, but as a perpetual reminder of his son's dark side, of his desire to undermine his brother. It is at this moment, according to the expanded lore, that Ahadi cruelly, or perhaps gravely, suggests that Taka adopt the name Scar, so that he never forgets the consequence of letting jealousy guide him. This rebranding is the turning point. It's an institutionalization of his trauma. It's not just a physical scar, it's a psychological one. By accepting the name Scar, Taka officially sheds his identity, the name given to him by his parents, and embraces the identity of the wounded outcast. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy of exile and villainy. Now, why is this important when analyzing the original 1994 film? Because it gives a crucial context to the few lines Scar delivers about his name. Remember that tense scene early in the movie where Zazu is being held captive by Scar? Scar muses, "Oh, I shall practice my curtsy." And then Zazu responds, "You should have practiced when you were young." Taka. Wait. Zazu says Taka. No. Zazu actually says, "You should have practiced when you were young." Scar. But in the original script and early production notes, this line was written as Taka. It was changed later, likely to simplify the story for a theatrical run, avoiding the need to explain complex backstory to the audience. Yet, this internal hesitation shows that even the filmmakers knew the depth of his character started long before that scar appeared. Let's look at the dialogue that did make it into the final film. Specifically, when Mufasa confronts Scar after he misses the ceremony, Scar says, "Oh, I was first in line, until the little hairball was born." And Mufasa retorts, "That little hairball is my son and your future king." Scar's resentment is palpable. Later, when Mufasa asks why Scar won't fight him, Scar says, "I wouldn't dream of challenging you. You are the king. I am the ... lesser brother." This language of being lesser is rooted directly in the burden of the name Taka. He feels worthless, not just because Mufasa is stronger, but because the entire structure of the Pride Lands has designated him as secondary, a piece of waste. The power dynamic is brutally clear. Mufasa is defined by his majesty, his strength, and his royal destiny. Scar is defined by a permanent physical injury that symbolizes his failure and his bitter. The moment he takes the name Scar, he stops trying to be good or accepted. He decides to live up to the moniker of the villain. Think about the psychology of a name change. People often change their names to mark a new beginning, a separation from a painful past, or to embrace a new identity. For Taka, becoming Scar was an act of radical self-pity and hatred, solidifying his identity as the outsider. He didn't just get a scar, he became the scar. It's a constant, externalized representation of his internal pain. Every time Mufasa or Sarabi or Zazu looks at him, they don't see Taka, the brother. They see Scar, the mistake. This shift helps us understand the sheer depth of his betrayal. His goal wasn't just to be king. It was to erase the memory of Taka, to prove that the Waste could actually rule. He wanted validation, acceptance, and the ultimate position of power that Mufasa effortlessly inherited. The tragedy deepens when you consider that Mufasa likely still saw Taka underneath the surface. He treats Scar with patience, even affection, though tinged with caution. Mufasa repeatedly tries to reason with him, to include him, but Scar's already built an impenetrable wall around himself, fueled by years of bitterness and the crushing weight of his original identity. This interpretation of Taka's story adds incredible richness to The Lion King. It shifts the narrative slightly from a simple story of good versus evil to a complex Shakespearean tragedy about sibling rivalry, deep-seated psychological trauma, and the destructive power of envy. Scar is not just born evil, he's molded by neglect, by a cruel societal position, and by the constant reminder that he is simply not Mufasa. So, the next time you watch The Lion King and see Scar plotting in the shadows, remember that sinister figure used to be Taka, the young prince, struggling with the feeling that he was defined by failure and trash. His ultimate quest for the throne was arguably less about power and more about desperately trying to rewrite the cruel joke that his life had become. It's a truly heartbreaking piece of Disney lore, and it makes Scar one of the most fun. Today, we're diving deep into the Pridelands, away from the majestic light of the Circle of Life, and into the darkness that lurks just outside the sun-drenched canyons. We're talking about Scar, perhaps the most iconic Disney villain of all time, the brother of Mufasa and the usurper of the throne. But we aren't just analyzing his evil scheme, we're peeling back the layers to understand who he was before the scar, before the resentment, and before the ultimate betrayal. We're looking at his lost name and the potent symbolism of the shadow he cast, a shadow that haunts the entire franchise. Scar is introduced to us already on a villain defined by his bitterness and his defining physical mark. But he wasn't always Scar. Disney canon, particularly the book A Tale of Two Brothers, gives us a glimpse into his life before the injury. His birth name was Taka. Now, even that name is loaded with meaning. In Swahili, Taka has several translations, but the most common and relevant one is desire or want, but it can also mean dirt or rubbish. This dual meaning already sets the stage for a character consumed by ambition yet viewed as less than by those around him. Think about it. Mufasa's name means king in Manazoto, or perhaps chosen one. Taka, on the other hand, is defined by what he lacks and what he craves. From childhood, he was set up in opposition to his golden older brother. Mufasa was the sun. Taka was the shadow. This is the first major piece of the puzzle. Scar's villainy wasn't a sudden choice. It was a slow, but the book tells a slightly different story. A story that solidifies his psychological break, tries to set up Mufasa to look foolish. He attempts to trick a dangerous buffalo named Boma. The plan backfires spectacularly. Taka is attacked. The physical scar is terrible, of course, but the mental scar is catastrophic. When the accident occurs, Taka's father, Ahadi, views the injury not as a tragedy, but as a consequence of Taka's own foolishness and malice. Ahadi then essentially tells Taka that he must live with the consequences and the shame of his actions. This is the moment Taka sheds his birth name. He asked to be called Scar, not just as a painful reminder, but as a perpetual accusation against the world. And perhaps Mufasa, for the injustice he felt he had suffered. He weaponized his wound. By choosing the name Scar, Taka consciously rejects the identity given to him by his parents and embraces a new, self-defined identity rooted entirely in pain and resentment. It's a powerful act of He stops being the younger brother, consumed by desire, and starts being the walking embodiment of damage. And this psychological transformation is what makes him so terrifyingly effective as a villain. He isn't seeking the throne for power alone. He's seeking validation, a way to prove that the dirt Taka could still rise above the king of... Now, let's talk about the visual language of Scar's shadow. Disney uses light and darkness masterfully in The Lion King. Mufasa is always associated with the golden light of the Pride Rock summit, the clear blue sky, and the vibrant colors of the Pride Lands. Scar, conversely, is perpetually associated with shadow caves, and desolate places like the elephant graveyard. He literally lives in the shadow of his brother's glory. This shadow is crucial because it represents the hidden corruption within the kingdom, the darkness that exists even in the most idyllic places. Scar isn't just a villain. He is the shadow self of Mufasa and the Pride Lands itself. Mufasa is order, law, and the natural balance. Scar is chaos, envy, and the imbalance created by unchecked ambition. He represents the failure of the circle of life when one part of the ecosystem in this case, an individual becomes entirely focused on self-gain rather than the collective good. When Scar takes over, his reign is immediately characterized by the literal spread of shadow. The vibrant Pride Lands become barren and gray. The natural order collapses. Why? Because the shadow has eclipsed the sun. Scar's internal darkness manifests outwardly, proving that a corrupt heart can ruin an entire kingdom. His shadow isn't just physical, it's ecological and political. Think about the colors used and be prepared. The sequence is almost entirely black, green, and toxic yellow, creating a fascist, militaristic atmosphere hidden in the dark recesses of the elephant graveyard. Scar uses the hyenas, creatures considered outcasts and pests, the very embodiment of the Pride Land's rejected shadows, to become his army. He mobilizes the forgotten, the hungry, and the despised, promising them light while leading them further into darkness. This shows how deeply his resentment runs. He doesn't just want the throne. He wants to overturn the entire social hierarchy that deemed him inferior. The symbolism of the scar is also a fascinating parallel to classic literature, particularly Shakespeare's Hamlet, which the Lion King famously borrows from. Just as Claudius, the Dark Brother, usurps the throne, Scar operates from the shadows. The scar becomes his crown, a symbol of his self-pity and his claim to martyrdom. Every time someone looks at him, they see the mark of his suffering, which he leverages to justify his cruelty. And finally, let's consider the ultimate irony of Scar's arc. He renames himself to symbolize his permanent wound and resentment. Yet, how does he die? He is betrayed by the very shadows he embraced. The hyenas, his chosen army of darkness, turn on him because he, in his typical narcissistic fashion, attempts to blame them for his defeat. He literally gets consumed by the darkness he cultivated. This reinforces the core theme. Living by resentment and shadow inevitably leads to self-destruction. Taka's desire led to Scar's damage, and Scar's damage led to his downfall. The last name Taka is a tragedy in itself, reminding us that Scar wasn't born evil. He was made evil through a combination of inherent ambition, perceived rejection, and a fateful physical injury that he allowed to define his entire existence. He traded a name meaning desire for one meaning wound, proving that the greatest villains are often the ones who are most wounded and refuse to heal. So, the next time you watch The Lion King, remember Taka, the jealous young cub who became the scarred tyrant. His story is a powerful exploration of how envy and the refusal to step out of the shadows can destroy not only an individual, but an entire kingdom. What are your thoughts? Did Scar's name change truly seal his fate? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the shadows of Pride Rock, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more explorations into the Disney universe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.